Great. Thanks, Michael. And it's a real pleasure to have this opportunity. Thanks. It's brilliant to see that you've set this up for the local community. And yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to have a chance to talk about a subject that I'm really, really passionate about. So thanks to everyone who's given up your time and a very sunny day as well to join. I appreciate it's tempting to be outside today, and I'm sure there are other things that you could be doing as well. So I will do everything I can to make sure this is the best possible use of your time, and that you really step away with something really valuable. So who am I? So my name is Steve Chamberlain. So as Michael introduced, I work as a coach, and I really specialize in the field of purpose and helping people understand their values, this piece of kind of who you are at the very deepest level. It's an area that I'm hugely passionate about, and it feels to me and seems to me like it's something that the world needs more than ever before, is a sense of people knowing who they are and what they are here to do, the unique contribution they can make to add to a better world, because we desperately need that in all arenas, as I'm seeing at the moment. So what are we going to go through today in this session? I'm going to share my slides very quickly, but I'm actually not going to be using the slides throughout, because I sometimes find they can get a little bit in the way of the connection. But let me share my screen for a moment, and I'll just give you a quick overview of where we are going to go. Okay. So what we're going to do is walk through the journey that is outlined in On Purpose. So this is the book that we're effectively talking about, and I will walk through the key stages to help you find your purpose. So we'll start. It is a build, and that's why this is almost like the mountain slide. So we'll start at the bottom, which is understanding your values and why are they so important, and how do you go about finding your values. Then we'll come on to your strengths, the things that you are naturally good at, and your passions, the things that you absolutely love to do. Then your element, where those two intersect. And once we've talked about how you go about uncovering those, we'll then talk about, well, what does that mean? How do you then use that to elevate yourself and get you to the place where you understand your purpose, which is your unique contribution that you're here to make in this lifetime. And then we'll talk a little bit about, well, what does that look like to be living on purpose? And living on purpose is living on the intersection between your values, who you are, and your vision, the life that you really want to lead, and the world that you would really love to be a part of. And then we'll just talk a little bit at the end about the book and your opportunity to dive a bit deeper if you'd like to, and some free resources that I'm really happy to make available as well. So let me just unshare my screen now. Okay, perfect. So values then, let's start at the bottom of that build, that slide, taking us up towards purpose. So values are the words that best describe who you are or what matters to you most at the very, very deepest level. So the words that represent what matters to you most at the deepest level. So it could be words like integrity, growth, family, freedom, meaning, excellence, joy, happiness, excitement, buzz, and on and on and on. So a huge number of different words. And they are so key. The reason why I see them as the foundation to building up towards your purpose is your purpose is you stepping into your full potential and then adding value once you've done that. And understanding your values is really understanding who you are at the very, very deepest level. So this is why it's the foundation. If you don't know who you are, it's almost impossible to really live on purpose and to add your unique value to the world. So if they're that important, then how do we go about uncovering them? What's the path to doing that? And I'll talk a little bit about my journey, which is almost how not to do it, or it's certainly the hard path to uncovering your values. So I discovered mine the hard way, which was through violating them and compromising them. I didn't know what they were until I was living out of alignment with them. So it's one way to get there, but it's probably not the way that you'll want to get there, would be my recommendation. But let me paint a bit of a picture. So I used to work as an events director at the London Business Forum. So I was very fortunate to get that job after university. I did psychology as a degree, and it was organizing business events, but really it was thought leaders. So it was people like Sir Ken Robinson, Malcolm Gladwell, some amazing thought leaders across the world. So we were organizing those events, but I was actually struggling with a lot of stress and anxiety in the background. So unbeknownst to my boss and actually my friends and many of my family members wouldn't have known, but I was actually really struggling with stress and anxiety, because I didn't yet know kind of how the mind works, and that I was playing a big part in that stress, innocently. So what I did was very understandably, very naturally, I attributed my stress to something outside of me rather than realizing that I was actually creating or co-creating that stress. So I assumed, well, the job, I don't get stressed when I'm away from my job, and I do get stressed when we're building up to these big events. So it must be the job, which made perfect sense, but I didn't realize it was actually my thinking about the job. So I got to a point where I thought, there's too much stress. I need to leave the job. I need to quit, and I need an easier and a safer life. And in my mind, what that meant was as soon as I'd handed in my notice, I'd feel free, I'd be relaxed. And my image was that I'd then train and become a therapist. A therapist of some form. Sorry, my screen has just gone a little bit funny. Let me come back. Don't know what happened there. So that was my image. Well, this is going to solve everything, to step away from this job. So I handed in my notice. And I thought this lightness was going to come, and it didn't. In fact, it was the complete opposite. And I really remember I went for a walk with my dad around Hampstead Heath the day afterwards, and I felt really heavy and really powerless. And this had this really heavy feeling in my gut and a sense that I'd done something really wrong, stepping away from this role. And what I'd actually done without knowing it was compromise my number one value, which is growth. I didn't know it was that important to me until I'd compromised it. And growth is so key to me. And I'd stepped away. I'd basically said, I'm going to play smaller in the future. I'm not going to expand. I'm going to contract. And that absolutely did not sit well with me. And actually triggered a period where I went into a period of some depression. And increased my anxiety as well. So rather than solving my problems, it actually did the exact opposite. So that was a real challenge for me. And then unknowingly, I compromised my number two value, which is integrity. And the way that I did that was I thought, well, I started to panic. I thought that I'd go and train as a therapist, but because I felt so flat and so low, I thought, well, who am I to be able to go and help other people if I can't figure my own life out? So I thought, well, I'll park that, and I need to get back into events because that's where my CV is, and that's where I'll be able to get a job. And I remember going to an interview for a charity to work in their fundraising events team. And I lied in interview. I said to them, I'm really passionate about working for charity. That's why I've left the corporate sector. I've really wanted to work for your charity for a long time. And I was absolutely compromising my second core value, which is integrity. I was lying in that moment. And the suffering cranked up to a whole new level. I got the job, but it meant that I felt like I was a fraud. I was wearing a mask day in, day out, and having to pretend that I really wanted to be there around other people that most of them really did want to be there. And actually, I was just standing in the way of other people who would have really wanted the job that I'd managed to secure. So I suffered. I do not use that word lightly. I really suffered over the following few years in that role. And that, through that suffering, it was a period I would never want to repeat, but actually it taught me what my core values are, because I started to realize, well, why am I suffering so much? And I realized I love it when I'm growing and I hate it when I'm contracting and playing small. And I love it, or I need to be in integrity. I need my word to be true. I need to be authentic. And I suffer when I'm not. So that was how I went about surfacing the first couple of my values. So your values then show up best in two places. The one that I've just talked about, which is your your trough moments, the times when you are really struggling. They also show up in your peak moments. So in your troughs, they'll show up because you're going against something that really matters to you at the deepest level. And in your peak moments, they'll show up because you will love it. You'll be in a state of flow. Everything feels easy. You feel like you're being very true to yourself. So if you think of holidays that you've loved, travels that you've loved, moments in your job, your career that you've absolutely loved, there will be a sense that you will have been honoring your values, one or more of your values in those peak experiences. So for example, if you have a core value of freedom, then if you were in a job role where you were given lots of autonomy, lots of freedom to be able to lead a team the way you really wanted to, that's going to be a real peak. Whereas if you were in a job role where there was a micromanager, someone, looking over your shoulder all of the time, compromising that value of freedom, you're going to hate that experience. So the peaks and the troughs are almost like a mirror to each other. What leads to a high will lead to a low if it's compromised, if that makes sense. So what I learned through this journey was what I call the values principle. The values principle, a principle is at play when something happens without exception. So the law of gravity means that if I pick up a pen and drop it, it will drop every single time. That's because there's a law, a principle at play. And I see it that there is a values principle. Every single time you are in alignment with your values, if you're making actions, choices, and decisions that align with who you are at the deepest level, you experience a state of flow and a state of ease. If, on the other hand, you start to go further and further away from your values and your actions are starting to compromise those values, it will feel more effortful. It will feel more challenging. It won't feel good. And if you get far enough away that you're violating your values, you're going to really, really suffer. But actually, that's good news, because it means that as soon as you come back into alignment, you're going to get back into that state of flow again. Okay, so that is the bottom of the mountain. If you remember, values, who you are at the very deepest level, what matters to you most at the very deepest level. That's the first stage on finding your purpose, because as I say, your purpose requires you to be you, which means living in alignment with what matters to you. And your values are going to be unique to you compared to other people. So you really need to get a sense of who you are. Then we can build on top of that. And the next stage up is to understand your strengths and your passions. So your strengths are the things that you are naturally good at. So yes, you can get better at them. Yes, you can improve and develop. But you know what? It just comes naturally to me. So for me, empathy is one of my strengths. I just can tune in to how other people are thinking, how other people are feeling, and get a sense of, being in their shoes and seeing things through their lens. That comes very naturally to me. I can get better at it. I can work at it. But you know what? It's easy, which is why I've made it a key part of my role and the work that I do as a coach. So your purpose will require you to be in alignment with your strengths, because your purpose requires you to add unique value. And that means doing things that you are naturally good at. So if in your life and in your work, you're out of alignment with your strengths, by definition, you will be living off purpose. You can't be on purpose if you're out of alignment with what you're naturally good at. The next piece is your passions. So passions are the things that you love to do, things that you absolutely love to do. So I often think of a passion as it's something that you choose to do, even though no one is paying you to do it. Well, then it must be a passion, because you've chosen to do so. And finding your passions is key, because your purpose, again, will require you to love what you do. You're living on purpose. It means you wake up and you just want to do what you are doing, which I absolutely experience in my career now, and did not experience at all in my former career, particularly when I was out of alignment and compromising my values as well. So finding your passions is key. Then, if you remember on that build, so we had values, strengths, passions, and then the next area up was element. So your element, a term coined by Sir Ken Robinson, someone again we worked with at the London Business Forum, who's a real thought leader in the field of human potential. Your element is where your strengths and your passions intersect. That is the sweet spot. That is absolutely where you want to be living and working as much as you possibly can, right in your element, because it's in your element that you thrive. Everything just comes really naturally and really easily. It's a space where it's often called the zone. You just get into it and time disappears. So you might spend an hour doing something and it feels like you've actually only spent 10 minutes because you've been so immersed in the activity. You will find that your energy actually goes up. So you spend 3 hours doing something in your element and you come out of that more energized than you were when you started, which is the complete opposite of being way out of alignment with your element, not playing to your strengths or your passions, where doing something for 1 hour will feel like you've been there for 3 hours and you'll be really drained. Time is dragged. You'll also find that you find your tribe. So people that are like you when you find your element. So I never used to have that when I was working in events. I always used to feel like I had to put on a bit of a mask and pretend to be passionate about what I was doing. Now as a coach, I just love having conversations with my fellow coaches and the community that I've found, because we all are passionate about exactly the same things. So that's the build coming up. And that takes us to the very top, the pinnacle of the mountain build, your journey to purpose, which is to find your purpose. And there's one extra stage in there, which is to uncover your vision. So your vision is, what is the world that you would love to inhabit? What is the world that you would love to inhabit? So my invitation when you're searching for vision is you want to think really big picture, as big picture as you can possibly think. So if anything was possible, how would you love the world to be? So you want it to be unachievable in this lifetime and unachievable by you alone, to be big picture enough. So for example, my vision is of a world in which every single person has crystal clarity on who they are, their values, what they are here to do, their purpose, and they live their life on the line. They live their lives fully on purpose. Now, that would be a world free of conflict. That would be a world free of consumerism. That would be a world where everyone is actually working in harmony together and thriving. So that would be an incredible vision for me. Is that achievable in my lifetime? I'd love to say yes, but I look at the news and it's telling me definitely not. Is it achievable by me alone? No chance. That would need every single person on the planet to work in harmony together to make that vision a reality. But that tells me that's a big enough vision, because then you use your vision to say, well, okay, well, if that's the world I'd love to inhabit, then what is my purpose? Because your purpose is the unique contribution you are here to make in this lifetime that would contribute towards that vision becoming a reality. The unique contribution you can make that would contribute towards the vision. So for me, my purpose, by having that vision statement, I was able to drill down underneath that and ask myself a really high quality question. So, well, if that's the world I want to inhabit, then knowing my values, knowing my strengths and my passions, all the things that are unique to me, what is it? What's the unique contribution I can make that would contribute towards that vision? And for me, the answer came back, that's stepping into the world of coaching. So the actual purpose statement that I uncovered through that process was, my purpose is to help people create and lead extraordinary enlightened lives. So my purpose is to help people create and lead extraordinary enlightened lives. So what that means is that is achievable by me, and it is achievable in this lifetime, and it contributes perfectly towards the vision that I have. It's also in perfect alignment with my values. I can be completely true to myself. It plays to my strengths and it plays to my passions. So I will be in my element. So there's a perfect alignment when you find your purpose statement. And when you find your purpose statement, that the acid test to see whether it's the right purpose statement for you is, does it feel like it's broad enough to cover a lifetime of action, whilst also paradoxically being narrow enough to give you clarity on what opportunities to say yes to and actually which to step away from. So for example, my purpose to help people create and lead extraordinary enlightened lives, I'm on purpose right now. By leading this session, I'm contributing, even if it's just a small handful of people, that's on purpose for me. It's not paid, but that actually doesn't matter because it's on purpose. That's why I chose to say yes to this opportunity. It also lets me know that when I'm doing my coaching work, I'm fully on purpose. And when I'm facilitating sessions for emerging leaders, for some of the biggest companies, I'm on purpose there because I'm helping them step into their full potential and find their purpose and make their contribution to the world. It was also my on purpose when I was writing on purpose, because it was exactly contributing towards that vision. It has also enabled me to have clarity on what opportunities to say no to. So having that purpose statement enabled me to say, do you know what? I'm actually not an executive coach in the purest sense. I will work with CEOs and I will work with directors, but only really if I feel like they are really bought into making the world a better place. So it enables me to have clarity in that space. So once you go on that journey, and I'll provide some free resources, a link to some free resources at the end that will help you on this journey. Once you have that clarity on your purpose, how then do you start to live your life on purpose? And the key for me here is that there's an intersection. So there's an intersection between who you are, your values, what you are here to do, your purpose, and present circumstances of your life. So who you are, what you're here to do, and the present circumstances of your life. So for example, during the pandemic, your purpose may have looked very different to what it would look like in a post-pandemic world. So within the pandemic, actually, my purpose to help people create and lead an extraordinary, enlightened life, yes, that has absolutely still been about coaching and very much in the virtual space and leading virtual sessions. It also very much applies to my family as well, which is my third core value, family. So it's really about helping my children to come through what's a unique and very challenging circumstance in as positive a way as they possibly can. And I'm really proud of how they've managed to come through a really challenging experience, not being with their friends, and challenges with not being in school for periods. But I've been absolutely on purpose when I've been with my kids. So your purpose is not just work; it's in your personal life, and your purpose is, having this clarity just suddenly enables you to know, well, what am I going to say yes to? What am I going to say no to? And then in the post-pandemic world, suddenly that purpose might compel me to go to higher things. So I might be setting up my own online program based around the journey of on purpose and taking that out to the world. That may, at that moment in time, feel like it's really compelling. But that may be very different to what felt like it was true and helpful within the pandemic. So it really is understanding, well, what are the circumstances of your life? So for example, if you have just had young children, your purpose in that moment might look very different to once you get to the stage of your life when your children have left home. So this is not about saying that once you understand your purpose, you need to go big and you need to be writing books and you need to be leading things or whatever. That may appeal. It depends on your values, depends on your strengths, your passions, and your vision of the world you want to inhabit. For some people, it is big picture. For other people, actually, it might be having a real impact within your family or within your local community. And again, it really will depend on what the present circumstances of your life are as well. So the highest quality question, just as a final piece before we come on to share, to open up to questions and talk a little bit about the book, the final the really high quality question that you can start to ask yourself when you have clarity on all of these things, your values, your strengths, your passions, your element, your vision, your purpose, is knowing that my values are, and then you're able to list out your values, and my purpose is, and then you're able to have clarity on what you're here to do in this moment or in this situation that I'm facing. What action am I compelled to do that would be in alignment with my values and with my purpose? So having clarity on all of these pieces of what makes you you really enables you to make really high quality decisions in all areas of your life. And it's that building that muscle of asking those high quality questions that are in perfect alignment that enables you to start to live on purpose, moment by moment, as you go through your life. So just before we open up to questions with Michael, let me just talk a little bit about some of the free resources that I'm really happy to make available to you. So as I say, everything we've talked about is covered in On Purpose. That build, the mountain build, and every stage on there is outlined in here. So the first thing is that chapter 1 of the book, which is all about uncovering your values, and there's an exercise in the middle that walks you through absolutely step by step how to get clarity on your maybe 4 to 7 core values. That's mapped out, and then towards the end of that chapter it talks about, once you have your values, how do you then align your life around them, which is when you get into that state of flow. So if you go to stevechamberlain.co.uk/on purpose, and I'll put this up as a slide at the end as well, but stevechamberlain.co.uk/on purpose, you'll see there's a free download of chapter 1. So I'm really happy to make that available for you. Just click on it, and then you'll get the download of the chapter. So that's stage 1 of the book. Stage 2 talks about how you use your values to find your strengths, passions, element, and purpose. So chapter 2 is all about purpose. And then the rest of the book, there are 5 more chapters, 7 chapters in total. The rest of the book is about, well, once you know your purpose, how do you live on purpose? How do you actually live a life that is fully aligned with your purpose? So stage 3 is about your beliefs, because the number one thing that will get in your way of living on purpose is your belief system. Beliefs can limit us in so many ways. I'm not good enough. I can't, I'm not a good presenter. Someone like me could never do that, whatever else that belief may be. Whatever beliefs you're holding, they are the most likely thing to absolutely get in your way. So stage 3 of the book is all about how do you free up those beliefs and make sure that your belief system is true and helpful and frees you up to live fully on purpose. And then the other chapters dive into mindset. So how do you use this to step into unshakable self-worth and self-confidence? There's the next chapter is on mindfulness. So how do you live on the razor's edge of the now, in the present moment, which is the only place that your life actually ever unfolds. It's always unfolding in the present moment. And what you're looking for ultimately is in the moment. All the peace, all the joy, all the fulfillment, all the contentment you're looking for is here and now. So it's this amazing paradox between, yes, vision the life you want to lead, and yes, take some steps to get there. But actually don't ever lose sight of the fact that everything you're looking for is in the moment on the journey towards that. There's a chapter on skill sets. So how do you upskill? Because there'll be times when to live on purpose, you absolutely need to step into your full potential and grow your potential. And then the final chapter is all about contentment and inner peace. So how do we actually find what we're looking for, which is the ultimate pinnacle of the journey? How do we find genuine inner peace and lasting contentment? There are also some extra resources that I'm really happy to make available for you, which are normally only available for people who have bought the book, which are at stevechamberlain.co.uk/living on purpose. So stevechamberlain.co.uk/living on purpose. And there you'll find a tool. This is all free. So a tool to help you find your strengths and your passions. There's a list of different values. there's a skills wheel, there's a whole kind of raft of different resources. So please feel free to go for those as well, if you would find that valuable. The book itself is available as a paperback. It's also available as a Kindle, and also on Audible as well. So you can find it on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible, and you just search for On Purpose by Steve Chamberlain if you're interested. And I hope you find it really valuable if you do choose to go for it.